I'm John Mansfield, and I live on Winnequa Road here on the south shore of Lake Monona. We live in a wonderful house, and this house and our enjoyment of it was made possible by Jim Pope, which is why I'm doing this interview. We lived in Madison for about 26 or 27 years, and we used to live on the west side. We used to live in Nakoma, but a few years ago, Donna came up with the idea of moving to a lakeside home, and it made perfect sense because we're both very much outdoor and water-oriented people. So we windsurf, we sail, we canoe, we kayak, we row, and we just enjoy the water, everything about the water, and being outdoors and near the water. So that was our motivation for looking for a lakeside house. So I think there's the emotional side of deciding to move to a new house. And then there's the financial side. And our experience with Jim Pope addressed both of those issues, really. And Donna, I think, talked a bit about some of the emotional aspects of moving into a new house or deciding to move to a new house. We were very excited by the prospect of it, but quite frankly, we were also very much concerned about the budgetary aspects of selling our former house and then investing in a new house and getting the place that we would really like to live in. And we, quite frankly, had a preconceived notion of what we could or couldn't afford to do. And melding that with the house search created sort of a really volatile emotional mix, because we would see things that we thought we couldn't afford, but it turned out we could, and we didn't know that if we hadn't had this experience with Jim Pope. So he was very helpful in providing us factual information about what we could afford and what we couldn't afford, and what the monthly payments would be, and a lot of other details that just answered a lot of questions for us. Basically, his staff just made the whole process super smooth, and they requested certain things, and we could either provide them with paper copies or PDF copies from scans of documents that we had. They had all of our income information and some related information, but they put it all together, and Jim reassured us constantly during the entire house hunting procedure that yes, we could afford a house up to this level, but not any higher, and that we should comfortably look for houses in that range. And if we hadn't had that information, we never would have ended up in this particular house. So, I mean, it was a wonderful process that ended up making it possible for us to live here. We were quite surprised when we arrived at the closing to find that all the documentation was perfectly prepared. There were no last-minute surprises, and this was one of the things that always sort of worried us a little bit during the whole procedure. We were going to get to the end and find that there was a surprise. Oh, it's going to be a little more expensive than we thought. And we had dialed everything in pretty carefully beforehand. So we were quite pleased to find out that everything was exactly as billed, exactly as described, and there were no surprises. So one of the nice things about Jim Pope and his services is that he's in constant touch with us. I mean, he didn't just service our mortgage on this house, he's been in constant communication with us. And in fact, 4 years after we signed on the dotted line for this mortgage, he contacted us because of the drop in the interest rates and said, this is the time you have to refinance. And so we just went through that process with him. So we're actually paying less now than what we paid 4 years ago per month. And comfortably we can stay in this house. Jim Pope and his financial team have more than met our expectations. I would say they've exceeded our expectations for a financial advisor. And I should add something too. You know, it's not that Jim is sitting over here making financial pronouncements about what we can do here. He's actually embedded in and invested in the community here in Madison and the surrounding cities. And we run into him in all sorts of different venues, out on the lake, on the bike paths, shopping, dining. So it's helpful to have somebody who understands what Madison is really all about.